Hi, this is Benoy Thanjan, your host of the Solar Maverick Podcast, and also the founder and CEO of Renew Energy. Renew Energy, we're a solar developer and consulting firm. We've developed more than 100 megawatts of solar projects across the U.S., and we help clients execute clean energy projects with confidence. We act as your owner's rep, overseeing developers, EPCs, and financing partners to de-risk your project and keep it on schedule. We also provide development as a service, supporting origination strategy and execution so you can advance projects without building a large internal team. On the renewable energy credit side, we offer REC brokerage, REC asset management, and custom renewable energy credit research, helping clients understand pricing, policy shifts, and long-term market dynamics. In addition, we provide new market analysis and financial modeling to evaluate opportunities, assess project viability, and support investment decisions. To learn more, reach out at info@renewenergy.com. That's info@reneuenergy.com. We'll also have information on the notes of the podcast as well. Let's get into it.
On the current environment, people used to talk about globalization. We work across the ocean with different companies. But what I really think it comes down to the success that is be flexible and also understand the local context. Each region is different, might have a different regulatory to customer expectations. So if you have to tailor the approach with the solutions to really meet each company's core values, that's where I see adaptability.
Hello and welcome to the Solar Maverick Podcast, where solar meets entrepreneurship and experience. I'm your host, Benoy Thanjan, so let's get into it. Hi, this is Benoy, your host, the Solar Maverick Podcast. I'm really excited on this episode of the podcast. I have Jing Tian. She's from Tigo Energy. She's the Chief Growth and Revenue Officer at Tigo Energy, and she's a solar industry veteran. She's also been on a lot of podcasts, and it's been great to learn about her. We met in person for the first time at Intersolar, and I've listened to a lot of the podcasts that she's been in, and she's also a listener to the Solar Maverick Podcast. Welcome, Jing, to the podcast. I appreciate you making time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it to having me. I'm glad to be on the Maverick.
Yeah, you're a Maverick, a solar Maverick as well. And that's what we call our listeners, Mavericks. You talk about a lot of different topics on many different podcasts. I've learned so much, so I'm really appreciative of you making time on our podcast today. I think it would be very helpful for our audience if they're not familiar, if you could talk about Tigo Energy, what the company does, and briefly about your position at the company.
My journey into solar industry has been pretty exciting one. So I actually started out at a few startups, and I span from concentrated PV system to CIGS thin film PV modules. So where I got to experience the fast moving, innovative side of clean energy firsthand. Those early experiences have taught me to think creatively, adapt quickly, and stay flexible. So those are the lessons I have been carried throughout my career. So from there, I moved to Trina Solar. That's where I first had an opportunity to work with Tigo Energy. So we collaborate trying to launch the module level integrated smart modules. So with the MLPE integrated back into the modules is what we call back then is Trina Smart. That's what we really work first-handed. I really get to look closely how innovative the technology Tigo bring into the industry. So long story short, after a few more years, working in the various different companies, and in about 2021, so that was the right time, right opportunity for me to join Tigo. So I have been with Tigo Energy since then. It's been very amazing journey. As most of people know, Tigo Energy, module level power electronics provider. But in fact, we have expanded our solutions beyond that. So we have launched the residential storage solution. In addition, we also have a suite of software that provide monitoring and fleet level management as well as some of the predictive analytics, so we call it under Predictive Plus, that is to provide a consumption and the generation predictions for grid operators and the independent power producers or even some utilities.
That's really helpful. Like, I appreciate you walking through your experience. You're the president of North American operations at Trina. Then that's how you got to learn about Tigo. And you're obviously the chief growth and revenue officer at Tigo Energy. And you have a wide variety of experience within the solar industry. It was interesting to hear you talk about concentrated PV and then working for a PV panel manufacturer and now at Tigo. You mentioned about adaptability and flexibility. Can you talk more about what key lessons you've learned being many years we like to joke about it as the solar coaster, but what else have you learned? It sounds like everything's constantly changing. You're learning and adapting. You've been in a lot of different roles. Can you talk to that more, like key lessons you've learned from navigating to both the Asian and U.S. solar markets? And even that's all obviously changing as well with tariffs and other things. And it would be great to just get your perspective of what key lessons. I know you mentioned some of them before.
I think on the current environment, people used to talk about globalization. We work across the ocean with different companies. But what I really think it comes down to the success that is be flexible and also understand the local context. Because each region is different. We might have a different regulatory to customer expectations and then to installers' preference. So if you had to tailor the approach with the solutions to really meet each company's core values, that's where I see adaptability. The early days in Asia, for example, solar installation, the labor cost is not the major cost. But if you go into Germany, they adapted my early days on the CAGI thin films. Actually, the EPCs are talking about how to use robots to move the panels. So that's where you kind of had to look at the solutions, how is it best to work with the customer to provide the values to add a local context. But the second is the innovation has to really align with the real world application. It's not just for the sake of technology and technology. The one thing I really learned, the key from leadership point of view, I think managing the team across different time zones and the cultures, it's really taught me the importance of very, very clear communication and to be culturally sensitive. Understand the sensitivities. No matter where the team is based, I think people are the same. They want to feel being heard, empowered. You can align the team based on shared mission and values. That's some sort of my key takeaway.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I appreciate you sharing with the audience. We have like a wide range of different people within the industry and who are learning about the industry and very senior people as well. It would be interesting too to get your perspective of what role do you see like module level power electronics playing as solar plus storage becomes more mainstream? And how is Tigo going to be a part of that going forward?
We started with what is the module level power electronics bringing to the market, like how does the impact solar system? And then I can talk about how we see the market adoption. So first of all, what I would say is let's break down into first of all angles. So first from the installation perspective, if you were looking at the residential and the C&I, with module level optimizer, it's really adding a lot of flexibility for the customer. You're going to have a roof system, maybe too many obstacles in the C&I situation, a lot of HVAC on the roof. Then you got the shading, then you have to figure out how to route it to stream differently. And the optimizer give you that flexibility. And same thing with the residential as the penetration, like ideal roof no longer exists. So like what is the next 20% of roof where you have tall trees and building blocks? Of course, you want to put a PD module in the sun, but give you some flexibility in system design or maximize the systems. So that's the value of the MLPE. But then as people realize the safety is also very important, that you're adding the rapid shutdown solutions so that enhance the safety of the system. The addition is the module level monitoring. So what I call is now you become a smart PV system. So you not only can see the data from your inverter, you actually can see individual module level. So it's really give the system owner reduce the OpEx, because really they reduce the operation and maintenance costs. That's where I call it is really what we do is enhance the safety performance, to enhance the performance, then adding a lot of design flexibility and reduce the operation and the maintenance costs.
That's a lot of information for sure. And I think it's pretty comprehensive. Obviously, you mentioned rapid shutdown technologies. Can you go into more how that solves real world challenges for residential and commercial installers?
So we have in US, we have the module level rapid shutdown requirement. Then there's another standard, which is 3741. So it's really ultimately is to meeting the safety requirement when in the event there's a fire. So we want to make sure that first responders can go to the roof. They don't have to worry about high voltage. Okay, in the residential 600 volt and the CNI is a 1000 volt. The module level rapid shutdown, all we do is when that is being triggered, so the voltage is no more than 80 volts within 30 seconds based on the code. But Tigo is actually get module level. It's like a shutdown, so without any currents or voltage. So that allow people to access to the PV panel safely in the event of fire or any other hazardous issues.
That's obviously a very important issue that Tigo's mitigated with optimization, rapid shutdown technologies, and making it safer if the system's on fire. So I appreciate you explaining that. And then everyone's talking about AI. Also, there's smart analytics that's being integrated into Tigo's platform. Can you talk about how this is potentially improving system performance or predicting failures?
Yeah, that's my favorite topic. So what it does, we have to understand Tigo's EI monitoring platform. So we taking the real-time data at the module level. With a significant amount of data, we actually can predict what the module should be performing. The monitoring platform, we call the EI platform. So that's only first step. That's what the buzzword is called actionable data, right? So how do you use data, make sure it's actionable? So we have the AI and machine learning technology be able to looking at the historical performance versus what we think the system should be performing. So we can send the right actionable alert to the customer, say, maybe you need to check out that something is not working quite right with your system. We have some of additional ideas really, will be forthcoming to provide even more insights for the system performance to adding more values to our customer. So it's all built on understand the system performance to be able to process the significant amount of data to understand and learning the system, how it should perform, then provide predictive analytics to our customer.
And what excites you about the future of solar and Tigo's role in shaping that?
So I think what really excites me is no longer just about clean power. It is become a backbone of a smarter and more resilient energies. So what we're really moving towards is to have a flexible, more integrated smart home in the case of residential system. So at Tigo, I think we're kind of right in the middle of this transformation. Whether it's through our module level power electronics, and as I just mentioned about our AI-powered energy intelligence systems, what we're trying to is to make a solar system smarter and more user-friendly. Right? Ultimately, we want to be also more accessible to the customers.
Accessibility and making things easier for the customer. And obviously you talked about AI and smart analytics. How can developers or EPCs or integrators best take advantage of Tigo's solutions in their next projects?
I think, first of all, we have a lot of materials available about our product. We can help you to understand how to implement the Tigo product to maximize your project. One thing I mentioned, our MLPE is actually modular. That's the only one having in the industry. We have an optimizer, monitoring, and a rapid shutdown only. So we can work with the people to figure out what will be the best combination for the solutions. So reach out to us. Our customer success team will help you do the product selections, design support, and the technical assistance throughout your journey.
every solar application is unique in its own way. Tigo's great with their modularity and customized solution to be able to help that. Obviously, you've been in the industry for a long time. Like, what advice would you give to women and emerging leaders in the renewable energy space?
I think to build a meaningful career, and I think it takes resilience, collaboration, and the leadership. So I can think about a few aspects. First of all, I think you should own your expertise. Then don't wait for permission. You've earned your voice. So I think, especially with people early on in the career, so I think you should speak up and feel comfortable to do so. Then secondly, in my career, I found it's very, very helpful to find a mentor and also sponsors. Those two play different roles. So the mentors really help you, guide you, and the sponsors, they advocate for you. So when you're not in the room, they advocate for you. So both are very critical in the career in growth into leadership. The other is to find your own network. You find a group of people in your community that people will support you and challenging you. Develop the soft skills, technical and the soft skills, communication, negotiation. Those are very important skills, in addition to technical knowledge. Be resilient. I think we are here in the solar coast, right? So I think in the setback, it's just, sometimes it's setback. It's not a failure. I think we just have to be persistent. Help others, help each other. I think we all need to lift each other in this industry in order to long-term successful, to make this industry a success.
Yeah, that is great advice. And I have like some follow-up questions. You've managed people in the past, and now obviously you talked about it a little bit in the beginning. Like, how do you keep the workforce engaged? You've worked for several Silicon Valley company startups, and these are high growth companies. How are you able to be a leader and build a team and then making sure that team is happy with working for one of the companies you've worked at or working for you?
I also like in various different things, whether it's in my solar work or whether it's some other volunteer works. I always found it's very, very important is to share the mission and the visions. It sounds like cliche, but we have to be aligned. For example, when we say customer is the center, now I'm taking the chief revenue officer role. I always say the revenue is a team sports. So what does that mean is we had to work together. It's like we're ultimately serving customer. If we share that common view, then we all can work together. Everyone can engage. Say, where do we add value to our customer? It's not just about technology. It's ultimately your customer where you provide value. Each company, I think in a lot of ways, we all share similar. It just is stated differently. But I think it's what companies call value and a philosophy, because I think that we had to stick with it, re-emphasize it, building culture around that. I think that is how you grew the entire team together. Sometimes I call it a culture of success. It's allow people to grow and feel not only as a team we succeed, and also individually for them to personally feel it's growing in the organization.
I was listening to another podcast you did, and I found it really interesting that you have a background in chemistry. You actually have a PhD in chemistry. How did you go from going to Drexel with a PhD in chemistry to getting into the solar industry?
It's adjacent in some ways. My chemistry background is in the polymer science. It's actually more focused on conductive materials. Oh. Yeah, so I actually did a lot of solid state physics in that. Then most of my PhD work is in the area of organic semiconductor materials. I was very familiar with the battery, actually worked on a polymer battery in my early days and the organic LED. So when I started looking at the industry, PV can really become an industry, I just jumped on it and said, this is where I want to be. That's how I come to the solar industry.
That's amazing. That's great to hear. If anyone in the solar industry or they're looking to get into the solar industry, do you have any suggestions of books or content other than obviously all the podcasts that you have done and the great content that Tigo actually comes out with a lot of great content? Is there any other resources that you would suggest if people are looking to learn?
I think it's a lot of universities are starting offering energy related and colleges to offering energy related classes. Then the other one, NAPSAP, is great resources. One of my favorite one was in Mayfield. They actually have lots of great technical content to share with the people. Then it's also different. It depends on what area, right? So for people kind of want to go through the college route, and then again, there's a lot of college courses, basic intros. But then you also have trade schools and then also installer base. That is lots of resources for people to learn how to get into the solar industry.
And then one of the last questions I have is, what trends are you seeing in the industry or trends that you're excited about specifically for solar in the US? Because that's primarily what you're focused on.
I see a lot of innovations in this space. If I can start to break down into segments. In the residential and the C&I, we see more and more integrated, intelligent system. So it's why I call it a smart system. You can see the inverters and batteries integrated. So inverters no longer just a DC-AC conversion. It's really started working as provide a load shift to doing the energy management. Batteries technology, the LFP is clearly the leading technology right now. But then it's no longer just for backup. A couple of years ago, it's all about a battery backup, but it's not really about how do we aggregate the batteries at individual home level. Is how do you manage the energy consumptions to minimize the grid dependency, or to some extent, sometimes is shifting to provide a service to the grid. But then you can see additionally, VPP is become more and more a reality. So I see is integration, smarter and connected systems. In the utility space, I actually see another application with a module level optimizer is the newer application, especially a lot of people start looking at the multiple use of the land. So agrivoltaics in that scenario. So sometimes you can see different applications like a floating solar. Safety become very important in agrivoltaic. So you have people working next to 1500 volt system. So you really look at a real-time monitoring safety features. So we can see some of those implementation of additional technology into the ground-mounted systems as well. So that's where I see is integration, deployability, and connectivity.
Obviously, safety is very important when you talk about agrivoltaics, and you mentioned as well photovoltaics. Those are huge growth areas in the future. That's still very early, so I appreciate you providing that insight. This has been, Jing, an amazing interview. If our audience wants to learn more about Tigo or to connect with you, what's the best way they could do that?
Yeah, there are a few ways to learn more about the Tigo. So obviously is our website, check out tigoenergy.com. Also, we have a Tigo Academy. If it's really interesting about Tigo technology, actually some of the classes we offer, it's only a couple hours, but you can actually learn some of the Tigo technology, get it firsthand. And for those of you who like to reach out to me, you can check out my LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you.
We'll have that as well at the notes of the podcast. This has been an amazing interview. I really appreciate, Jing, your time, and I'm excited to see your continued role in shaping the solar industry. And thank you again for your time today and where Tigo will be too in the future, you leading revenue growth in the ultra competitive solar industry.
No, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. This has been really fun talking to you.
Great. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Solar Maverick Podcast. The Solar Maverick Podcast is brought to you by Renew Energy. We're a solar development and consulting firm. If you believe that this podcast is adding value to you, please give us a 5-star review and share with those that you think could benefit from this information. Please email all questions, suggestions, and feedback to info@renewenergy.com. That's info@reneuenergy.com. The Solar Maverick Podcast is produced by Podcast Laundry and executive produced by Benoy Thanjan and Kevin Y. Brown.